Hello everyone, welcome back to Chapter 4, focused on the grammatical endings S, ES, and ED. And as you all very well know, especially when we looked at these grammatical endings in the previous class, in the previous course, these endings, the consonant sounds change depending upon how these words are used in context. The letters that come directly before these grammatical endings, or the consonant sounds rather, that come directly before these grammatical endings. So a lot of the times, I think a common mistake that students make is that they'll add a consonant when it's not necessary. For example, most of the time, these endings add consonant sounds and not extra syllables. That's a very common mistake that students will do where, for example, for kicked, instead of adding the consonant sounds K and T, students will add another syllable. Kicked, kicked. Two syllables rather than keeping it one syllable and just adding the consonant sounds K and T at the end. That's a really common mistake that students might do. They'll add the vowel sound between consonants to create that extra syllable, like we just talked about. So for the first warm-up activity that we're going to do together, I want you to listen to these pairs. You can see that they're very similar to one another. Some of the words have these ESS endings or ED endings. Some of them add a syllable by adding a vowel sound, and some of them do not add a syllable. They rather add consonant sounds to the very end. Usually D consonant sound, T consonant sound for the ED. You'll see that a lot. And we'll talk about the rhyme and reason as to why these consonant sounds are added instead of syllables being added. But to start off, for exercise 1, listen and check the phrase that you hear. Do you hear one syllable or two syllables? And that will greatly dictate which of the two that you hear. So CD1, track 31. Let's go ahead and give it a listen.
Chapter 4, Exercise 1A, page 27.
1. Former status.
2. Keep the notice.
3. The task is.
4. Official quotes.
5. Perfect hosts.
6. Planted a garden.
7. Explain it to me.
8. Looked up.
9. Use it to cook.
10. Canada salmon.
All right, I'm going to explain these differences to you very briefly, and then I'll give you another opportunity to listen to it again to see if you can train your ear to listen for the difference. We're listening for a difference in syllables. So for example, keep the notes. Notes, one syllable. Keep the notice. Notice. Notes, notice. One syllable compared to two. And just like number 3, the tasks, the task is. Tasks, it's really hard. The S, T, S, or the SKS is tricky. Tasks. Tasks. What you're doing to do the SKS is you're taking your tongue. Tasks. The tongue briefly touches the soft palate to create the k, k, k sound. Try that with me. K, 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 k. Right here in the soft palate, your tongue is pressing up against the soft palate and then letting air go through. We were talking about K sound when we were doing consonant sounds from last week. Tasks. Tasks. That's very hard to do. Very hard for native speakers to do. But still one syllable. Why one syllable? Because we have one vowel sound. Every syllable needs to have at least one vowel sound. Task has two vowel sounds. So that's how we can tell the difference. One syllable and two. Official quotes, official quotas. Perfect hosts, perfect hostess. Very similar to number 3, an added vowel sound here. Planned, planned a garden, planted, planted a garden. Planned, one syllable, planted, two syllables. And we're going to talk about the consonants that come right before these grammatical endings. We'll talk about there's a rhyme or reason as to why it has one syllable, why ed ending in some words only have one syllable as compared to two syllables. We'll talk about that. And we talked about it also last course as well. Explained, explain it. Looked, one syllable. Looked. This is an example of ed taking the KT sound, right? Rather than adding a syllable, we actually add consonant sounds at the ends of these words. So looked, look at, two syllables. Used, use it. Canned, Canada. That one has 3 syllables compared to just one. So oftentimes distinguishing these endings, it's really important to make sure that you are not adding syllables when you're not supposed to. And that's very, very common with the ed ending. And we'll look at that more as we continue on. Let's continue. Go ahead and go to the bottom and click next to the next exercise in this chapter.